Welcome to another episode of Race in Point. Today we're going to be talking to students about their experiences and how race shows up for them. Michelle, you want to introduce?
You want to say your name?
My name is Lavette Coney.
And my name is Michelle Chalmers. Welcome, everyone. We're so excited that we have invited these three beautiful young ladies to visit with us today on Race in Point. So we have Sadhna, Yasmin, and Ciera. And we will have them introduce themselves and have a conversation. So who wants to start?
I can go first. So my name is Sadhna, as Michelle mentioned. I'm a senior at Wellesley High School, and I'm involved with the Yes Club with these ladies and with Diversity Club and One Wellesley at the high school.
What's the S Club?
Yes.
It's the club that had the Walkout. So.
And what's the acronym?
Young Ethnic Scholars. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Yasmin, and I am one of the executives for Yes, alongside with Ciera and another person named Zoe. And I'm one of the leaders for Let's Talk About Race and Challenge Success at the high school.
I'm Ciera. I'm also an executive of Yes, and I'm a MECO student. So yeah.
And where do you live?
I live in Boston, Massachusetts. Dorchester specifically.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you. So I have a question. Race doesn't exist because it's a social construct, but racism does exist. When did you learn those two concepts? Because most people don't even know that. They just think race does exist and it's not a social. They think that race is real.
So I learned that in high school from my English classes. Mm-hmm. And then as my high school year started to further and my knowledge of things started to become more in depth, teachers would introduce new material and new perspectives on that specific topic of race being a social construct. And I think when I fully understood it was this year in my Diverse American Voices class.
So is it throughout the curriculum? Is threaded throughout the curriculum that all the teachers teach about? Or is
I think it's more of a vague teaching about the situation. I shouldn't call it a situation because it's not a situation, but about race being a social
construct. You know.
Social construct. I'm sorry, I get really tongue-tied. But yeah, so it's a very vague thing. Freshman year, we learn about the dark continent, and there, I feel that's when I really started to understand it. But it's not something that they're race is a social construct until we had Diverse American Voices.
I did have, and I think that depending on your teacher, it also matters.
That's what I was asking.
Because for me, my freshman and sophomore year teacher, she made sure we knew that race is a social construct and other issues regarding race. And she gave us that foundation for me, for us to build off on. Mm-hmm. And it just happened that in our Diverse American Voices class, we had time, and this is what this class is for, to go back way in history to figure this all out. And other teachers don't spend that time and don't acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so it really depends on who you have as a teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's kind of contributing to the issue itself, that some teachers talk about this and make this an issue at school to teach students about social issues, and other teachers kind of go on with the curriculum, which of course that's their job to do, to teach students about books and things they're learning. But at the same time, if you're not aware of the country, the state of the country at the moment and the state of the school's environment and the racial issues at school and the country, how are you getting a good breadth knowledge of everything that's going on? And so my teachers talked about it, but I also know some students who didn't even have a conversation in class after the incident happened at school with the racist email. So we talked about it in advisory, but it really is up to individual teachers to bring it up and to see if students are okay. But that kind of creates an unbalanced and unequal playing field, because some students came into our DAV class this year not knowing basic terms of what is ethnocentrism, what is on my current question, what are stereotypes? And people didn't really understand the whole concept of it, whereas like students like us who had teachers to talk about it with, like knew more.
So it's not mapped out in the curriculum.
It's not.
No. So it sounds like
From our perspective, at least.
Right.
Well, again, you have 3 people in Wellesley High School that are experiencing, at different opportunities in classes. And it sounds like more English and history classes. So what about in science and biology?
That is very interesting. My biology teacher did bring that up. And she's very, she loves talking about like issues regarding race and gender in itself. So I got lucky and I had a great teacher. I'm not 100% sure if the other classes did as well, but I think there's a legitimate chance that they did not.
What's the benefit for young people to understand that race is a social construct and that racism is embedded in the systems, in our educational system, in our healthcare system, in our justice system, and so forth? What do you think is the benefit to know that?
At this age?
I think the benefit is so that you understand people's lives, you understand other people's perspectives, because I feel like no one's ever going to understand someone's life fully. No one's going to understand like other people's situations fully, but in order to understand what those people are going through, you have to be aware of the society that we live in. And like by like walking around completely blind to it and wondering why people are like so emotional, wondering why people are acting certain ways and getting mad at them for the way that they're acting, not knowing like the full picture, is like you can't make a puzzle like without a puzzle piece. Like it's not adding up. So like I feel like it's very important to like just understand people on their basic level.
Is there a story or something that comes to mind that you can think of that relates to what you're saying, and that you have seen the benefit, and that the knowledge that you've had or the knowledge that someone else had or the knowledge someone did not have that really caused the situation to escalate in a way that maybe it wouldn't have?
I mean, I don't have many like experiences where I've had heated discussions in class, because I think teachers always try to not talk about it, and I feel like that's also like contributing to the unawareness of some students, because if you start talking about politics, start talking about race in a class that's not focused on race like DAVs, they kind of cut the conversation, or like, let's get back to topic. But like I've had a situation in my English class where I was talking to my friend about being an immigrant and like getting my green card and how long and stressful the process has been. And another student was like, you know, if people, another student who I wouldn't mention, but like just mentioned how, you know, it's easy for people who are valuable to the country to get in the country. It's just people we don't want who aren't able to get in. And talking about like family separation and bringing that issue into the conversation about how these people are criminals and rapists and ruining the country. And I think because of the ignorance the person had, like, and how unaware he was of like how social issues affect individuals differently, of different colors, different races, he wouldn't understand where I was coming from. And I didn't think it was worth having a conversation with someone who was so arrogant about the issue as well. Because if someone's not like open to learning and like open to listening to others and have a discussion, I don't feel like it's going to benefit anyone in that situation. So
that happened in class?
That happened like in class, and then we spoke about it outside.
So if it happened in class as a teacher, I've been teaching, I'm 56, so I've been teaching since I was 16.
Right.
And that's a teachable moment.
Right.
And that's a moment where connections are supposed to be made.
Yeah.
So people may feel that that's not on topic, but it is necessary to deal with. So I would disagree with that. I mean, with that teacher not dealing with it at that time.
And certainly, then she had to deal with it.
Right, because then she had to deal with it, because she didn't deal with it, right? And she's the adult in the room.
Right.
Right?
But at the end of the day, that connection to that other human being was still broken.
Right.
As a result. And I think that's what's so poignant for me in these conversations, is that it's almost like we're speaking 2 different languages sometimes. That, you know, I always think about that. I've never really traveled, much in my life to places, especially that did not speak English. And I can't imagine, trying to have a conversation with someone who you don't speak the language with, and how frustrating that can be. But you're both trying, right? You're both trying to connect and using nonverbal and context and all the other ways that you're trying to connect with that human being. But here we are speaking the same language, but without common language, as what you're saying, with a common understanding. And so it breaks down. And so it's almost like, can there really ever be that connection if you and I really don't see things the same way through the perspective, Ciera, like you're saying? Like I'll never understand what it's like to walk in your shoes, but can I listen? And can I hear what you're saying and try that on?
And learn.
Yes.
I think a major problem now, in this time, is that people tend to think when we talk about race or basic moral issues in America, it's a political issue. And I feel like when you turn it into a political issue, you're taking the value away from that. Because to me, if you can't respect the fact that someone is living something else, or there's a lot of issues in America itself around white supremacy, around race in general, and you're sitting here telling me it's a political issue, we're having a political argument, you're making it less than it is.
And why do you think that people use that tactic sometimes?
To get away from the topic.
Yeah, they use it as a defense mechanism. To me, I don't think race is a joke. I have to live through it every day. Now, if I did ever come to Wellesley, I don't think I would be as I don't think I would realize it as much. But because I'm here, I'm forced to realize it. I have to get an education. I'm not to say BPS is bad, Boston Public School System, but it's not as good as the education out here in Wellesley. Right now in our class, we have
race.
Racism. Yeah. We have right now in our class we have 10 kids going to Ivies. That is rare to even have one kid go to Ivies in a lot of Boston public school systems. So the fact that
it's not because those kids could not.
It's because of redlining and a lot of economical things and a lot of resources that are lacking
and racist policies that tie school funding to real estate property taxes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's I would never have an opportunity, but I'm not going to be thankful because I'm being treated negatively here too.
Yeah. There was a course that you mentioned. I want to hear about this dark something. You said there's a course that you took.
Oh, the dark continent.
So what's that about?
Basically, it's the idea that Europeans went to Africa and they created this whole idea that the people in Africa were demons because they practice a different religion and they're below us. And it was just essentially so that they could get money and gain off of those people.
Take their resources.
So that's essentially what I learned in
it's social propaganda.
Yeah, social propaganda in order to benefit them, to justify their actions, to be this is what God wants us to do. They want us to cleanse the people, and this is how we're going to... And it's that whole against it.
Yeah. I mean, what would you think if I told you that I never learned that?
Neither did I. When I was going to high school. So you all went to Wellesley School from 9th, 10th? You went?
I've been
11th,
in the...
You've been there since kindergarten.
I've been there since
9th grade?
Ninth grade.
So you had 4 years. I mean, this is your 4th year.
Yep.
So you know the place, and you know the place intensely.
Yes.
But,
you know the place.
But we didn't learn that when we were growing up.
No.
Yeah.
And I'm really thankful that you are learning it.
Yeah.
Yes. I know obviously the consistency, with teachers getting more comfortable. The majority of white teachers in the classroom are like me, not, did not have an education, even as an educator, right? As your education from Columbia. I mean, did they teach you these things?
We had a couple of classes, but no, it wasn't threaded throughout the program. That's my argument, that it should be threaded through the education program for all teachers. So that they can understand how it shows up in all these different places, and so that they can get comfortable about talking about it. So when it comes up in the classroom, they can deal with it.
Does it make it difficult to make friends and really have true connections to people that you can trust if they don't see you?
I can say that in my freshman year, I had a lot of white friends. And then at the end of my senior year, I have a lot of black friends or people of color as friends. And that's been my main group and will continue to be my main group.
And why do you think that happened, that transition?
I think that happened because some of my white friends couldn't take my position. And essentially because I and these two ladies have been fighting this fight like since I can remember my sophomore year, and not too many people can handle that scenario. And also because like you're my friend but you don't want to get involved in the things I want to get involved, even though I'm involved with the things you're involved in. And then it's like I'm hanging out with majority of people of color because we all have a common interest. We want to be treated as equally in the same school system, and my white friends couldn't necessarily feel that in that particular way or no race way, and it just ended up happening like that. I still have white friends, of course, like I still like, and some of them do partake in Young Ethnic Scholars and Let's Talk About Race, but for the majority, I don't.
Well, for me,
have the same.
Yeah, for me specifically, I've become very antisocial over the years. It's like, no, it's actually one of my problems. Like, I need to start being social. But, like, I don't really, like, I have a hard time, like, considering people friends. Like, I have a lot of associates that are white. I have a lot of acquaintances that are white. But I don't consider any people that I know that are white my friends. Because, well, ever since, like, kindergarten, like, everyone was your friend. Like, elementary school, everyone's your friend. So I used to be friends with a lot of white people. But as I grew up in, like, middle school, it was done. I was a Mecca girl, and that was it. Like, that's how people perceived me. They perceived me as, like, loud, ratchet, ghetto, like, I don't know, like, anything under the sun.
So why would you want to be
Because
friends with those individuals, right? You want to be your
yeah.
authentic self, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I have friends, like white friends at school, but I also have people of color friends who are at school. And I think the problem for me is that when I talk about, you know, an initiative we did with Diversity Club or Diversity Club collaborating with World of Wellesley on an issue, and I'm so excited to talk about this, they just seem so uninterested.
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, is one of the big issues in having friends who don't understand where you're coming from, because when you get excited about something that's happening, like Indigenous Peoples Day, they're just like, oh, I don't see the interest, I don't see the importance of that. And they don't seem to be interested in even learning about it or understanding where I come from, and that's the problem. Like, I don't need all my friends to be interested in the same things I am, because I feel like a lot of people aren't. And so if you don't want to talk about politics, we don't have to. If you don't want to talk about race, we don't have to. But you have to understand where I'm coming from.
And respect that.
Yeah, and acknowledge that, like, I have a valid reason for caring about these issues. And, like, me walking out that day was me showing what I care about. And you don't have to do it, but you also can't not talk to me or not be friends with me because I do so.
And do you want to share about the walkout, or what were you going to say?
I was going to bring up the walkout, not like completely, but in the regards of like when we were out there and we were standing in front of everyone telling our stories and protesting, I saw in the audience, like participants, I guess, a lot of white people, and a lot of them, like, even afterwards would tell me or would like text me or something like that. I had no idea. I had no idea you were going through that. I had no idea that it was that deep. And I think that through that connection, at least some of my white friends, they took me a lot more seriously, number one. And number two, it's that they can empathize in some way or form and really consider what this means for me and like respect my position after that. And then some people couldn't, which is fair, which is fine, because at least I know now. Yeah.
Could someone give us some background? Because I don't know what happened.
So basically, throughout our time in the high school, there's been like constant like situations, like major situations that are brought to the school's attention, and then like not, I don't want to say shoved under the rug, because we're just like shut out after a while. Like we don't really know what's going on, and then it's just not a topic of conversation. Like no one really seems to care about it, and then there's just like the daily like microaggressions that a lot of us were going through. And one of the major things that sparked this was the fact that they were trying to take away the Mecca room, which is just like a, what's the name of
Safe
the
space.
safe space, but what is, I can't think of the name of it, but it's considered like a safe space where like people of color could go and we could just be ourselves, like, and have fun. Like I personally do not go in there because I'm antisocial, so I stay away from that situation. But I was, to me, like, people want to have their space, let them have their space, you know?
Yep.
And like that was to them like a place where they got to be who they wanted to be without thinking like about what they're doing. And so when they were like, we're going to take it away, because there was multiple instances in there, but there was a teacher, so I don't know what was really going on, but they were coming up with these really like bad excuses. They were saying that kids were leaving their classrooms to just go there and skip class. And they were, I don't know, there was just so many like reasons as to why they were trying to do it. And then every area that there was a group of Black people or like people of color in general, they took that area away. And it's like, I always say this, but like when the school was first created, like there's a certain area in the back of the cafeteria that a majority of the Black students sat at. And when that area is called Caprica, like, what do you expect people to do? Like, I'm not going to go sit in an area where I'm being, treated and, like, disrespected and, like, don't feel, like, good about myself in that area. I feel, like, less than human in a way. And so I'm going to go find somewhere else and, like...
And all my friends are going to come, too.
Yeah, like, and if you're going to continue to take away those areas, someone's going to get mad. So anyways, we based our thing.
You know, you're pointing out that it's sort of, we can talk about the Mecca room in a sense, but that was a symptom of really the disease, right? That here you have a group of people of color who are just trying to eat, who are just trying to have lunch, who are just trying to fit in and be a member of a community, member of a school, a group. You want to hang out with your friends. It's lunchtime. You want to hang out in an affinity space. You're with white people all day long, and suddenly you get an opportunity to go be with people who look like you, think like you, or whatever.
Things you don't have to explain, right? You don't have to explain yourself.
It probably can't even be explained, right? How you feel. Like, it's just, that's where I want to be.
Right.
And then people, you know, in a white predominant, you know, school is calling this a horrific name and sort of signaling or, you know, just pointing out, look at, that's where, you know, all the Black kids sit. You know, it's like, okay, who is segregating themselves? Is it really truly the Black kids or is it the white kids? Right? So those are the kind of conversations that it just seems like nobody ever really wants to have. That you never really want to look at why was this opportunity of kids sitting in an affinity space at lunchtime, which is really the only time you have during the day to be and do what you want to do, because otherwise it is structured.
Yes.
That somehow when that, you know, you're being demeaned or dehumanized, as you said, why can't we have a conversation about that? Right? To where here you are, there are no conversations. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to hold anybody accountable. So you do what you should do in being autonomous. I'm going to go find another space. And then you find another space and all these reasons as to why they want to shut it down. Or you can't sit there. You can't be here. What is that telling you?
And then also putting teachers so you don't have to be in that area, so they can tell you like you can't be in that area.
But also it's
How
just
does
like
that make you feel?
It's not even just
the school officer to the other side of the school, right across from the Metco room.
The school officer.
Yeah, it's also not even just that. It's like, that's shots have been fired from that one. But also like the fact that you also purposely put people, like, you also like have these teachers and these signs, but it only applies to Black people. Like, there have been countless times where there's white children sitting in those areas I'm taking pictures, giving it to the principal, and they're like, we'll deal with this later. Like, no, we're not dealing with that later.
White
We're
kids
doing
not
it
holding
now.
them accountable.
No one ever says anything when a group of white kids sit
Yeah,
together.
like,
But when a group
what?
of black kids or a group of people of color sit together, like, oh, why aren't they assimilating into our school and our culture? But when we tried to, you ostracize us and call us names and use microaggressions and use stereotypes to demean us. So when we try to assimilate, it doesn't work and we don't feel safe and we don't feel included. And so when we have our own group, then you call us, oh, you're just hanging out with your own kind, or you're not assimilating into school. Why are you even here if you don't want to get all of what Wellesley has to offer? And no one ever tells white people, why are you hanging out with white people? You know, and I get questions, why do you?
At every party,
Yeah.
at every...
And people ask me, like, you're Indian, why you hang out with black students? I'm like, well, I'm not asking you why you're hanging out with white students. Like, it does not affect me to, like, ask for you hanging out with your friends. But for them, like, they feel like, oh, why aren't they a part of us? Like, but they wouldn't.
somehow that
And-
shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I want to bring up a point that people usually don't say, which is, and I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've expressed this to the administration as well, that there were some legitimate reasons in why I can see the administration being frustrated, because people used to leave their garbage everywhere. There was, I think there was something broken at some point, and there may have been a fight of some kind in one of the spaces that would be in transition to. And I understand that's frustrating. That is a frustrating scenario. That is a frustrating situation. But then when I really think about it, it's that, why is it that you have the little theater in the back of the school where predominantly white students are staying, they are leaving trash, they are breaking up stuff,
They're doing drugs.
There's a substance issue that you are aware of, but it's not treated. I don't see teachers over there like that, or telling people to filter out like that. Like, I mean, you put up a sign, okay?
They take the sign down. Like, they get to sit there.
And so when I really compare the situations, like, it's that some of the stuff were being done on this, it was very similar, but then there was a more drastic one. People had substance issues over there, and I can't speak on, like, because I don't know specifically, like, the scenario, because you're not allowed to have certain information as a student or confidentiality reasons, but it's that everyone has a common understanding that something was happening in the back of that school that had to do with something with drugs or alcohol. And it wasn't treated in the same way.
Yeah. Accountability is different. How it's handled is different.
So it would have been a little bit more legitimate if they were handled in the exact same way, but they weren't. And when you look at one group, one is predominantly people of color, black specifically, and then you have the other group where it's mainly white people, and then maybe a person of color here or there. Those don't compare, and there's no excuse for it.
Have you all heard of Beverly Tatum's book, Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting at the Same Table in the Cafeteria? I think that's the exact same.
Yeah.
You know, have the teachers read that? Do you know, have any idea what teachers read for summer reading or for professional development?
No,
that
was canceled
because of the snow day.
So they never had a snow day so they can make it up?
That's up to the superintendent.
Somewhat, Dr. Chisholm, he did offer one of his days, but we're still trying to figure that out for young ethnic scholars, but we're definitely doing it with the new teachers this week.
Yeah, 16.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So what are your goals for the new teachers? Like, you have this time. What do you think is the most important thing to sort of focus on?
The scenario.
Yeah,
I think that was
one
like
big
the most
thing.
important one.
What's the scenario?
So basically, this is like actually did happen in the high school. So the student was in class, and it's like, I'm not even get the specifics of the class, but basically at the end of the year they were doing like superlatives, but like a Kahoot version. And so they were going through the Kahoot, and the students, like, I think she was like the only student of color in this situation. But so they put, the question was, who's most likely to live in a zoo? Now I have no idea why this is a question. Apparently the person who was correct, like the correct person for this answer,
She
loves
animals.
zoos, loves animals, wants
She
to
talked
like
about it all
work
the
there.
time.
Yes.
So you make up the questions.
Yeah.
Based on like so
So-
everyone can get a superlative.
Yeah, and so the student of color's
what the
name
teacher
was
said.
on there, and also she was chosen by majority of the vote, and so
But she was not the one who
She was.
wrote
That was not
No.
even close to the correct answer, and I'm still trying to figure it out. Like
So,
anyway, so
yeah.
it went through teachers. It went through this. Like it. First of all, the students had to make it, and then the teachers had to review it. The teachers just thought that was somehow okay, so they just let that go through. And so afterwards, it gets even worse. So the student then leaves the classroom because me personally, I wouldn't want to be there, but the student leaves the classroom.
Traumatizing.
Yeah. And she goes and talks to another teacher who talks to the teachers, whatever. And then one of the teachers that she was in her class asked her
A white teacher?
I actually don't know the specifics, but I'm assuming so. I don't want to make assumptions, but so that teacher goes and talks to the student and kind of like puts it upon her to go talk to the class about why this was wrong and like why she feels the way she feels and like why she left the classroom. And then it gets 10 times worse because she comes and talks to these people and there's a chair in the middle and it's a circle. And she has to sit in the circle and tell the whole class as they sit around her about her feelings. No, I wasn't there. I don't think I'd be able to sit in that classroom anymore, but yeah.
I don't think I would be able to go back.
So basically we're doing, that scenario.
We're doing that, as an example of a legitimate scenario that has happened in our school.
So what would they do?
And asking what they would do in that
what they
situation.
should do, and what needs to be like going on.
Yeah, like what they think they should have done, and like we'll give them like after they talk to us what they could have done, we'd give them suggestions on what they could do to make the student feel more comfortable and just not have that situation pop up in the first place.
Right.
Yep.
You know, that should have never happened.
Appropriate question to ask
And
if a
marking the
human
moment.
being should be living in a zoo.
Yeah, I'm still confused about
I don't
this
even know
question.
how that's a
Like, I
superlative
can't get
to
beyond that.
get
So when you
past
said
them.
marking the moment, what do you mean by that? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So there's a term. I'm not sure if like too many people outside of our school they're familiar with it in any kind of way, but marking the moment is like identifying that there is an issue with a specific instance that has happened, which is tailored to a classroom. So like say if like a teacher happened to overhear another student, and it could work for the teacher could also say something too, but like if a student happened to say something that was offensive in any kind of way or could be perceived as such, a teacher who may have overheard that situation or like what was going on would mark the moment and be like, that's not okay.
And say it to the whole class.
And say it to the whole class, like something just happened. It's not okay. And the teacher, depending on who they are, would handle the situation in different ways, but we're trying to give them the knowledge of what it means to mark the moment in our perspective as students. And so what a variety of students would be comfortable with. So like a person might be comfortable with, like after you mark the moment, after you acknowledge that there was a problem with a certain language being used or certain actions being done, you would then send an email to the student that was that received that hate whatever scenario was impacted by the scenario, and then you all would discuss if they choose to do so, how you can move the class forward, and how to deal with the situation.
So basically, you're asking the teacher to step up.
Yes.
Yeah, and we also like talked about how some teachers are uncomfortable addressing issues when they pop up on the spot because a math teacher, for instance, might not have the knowledge. They may not have the knowledge to address the issue on the spot. So we talked about like bookmarking the moment and like addressing that this is an issue. We'll come back to this, but like I just want to acknowledge that this is an issue and this is not going to be tolerated in this class any longer. And so we're not making the teacher talk about it at the moment because we acknowledge that teachers have different strengths and weaknesses, but at least like doing the bare minimum and acknowledging that this is not okay. And coming back to it the next class and talking about why someone felt that way. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, it's so much better than doing nothing.
Yeah, and it's not too much to ask. I mean, there's some teachers who already do it. So I think the main goal is to get everyone in the school for this to become a common practice so no student has that experience like the one like Ciera described.
Yeah.
there are two students. I think they're going to college now. I think they started in high school, and they have a curriculum for teachers. I think it's called Choose. Priya and I can't
I
remember.
remember the two young ladies. Yeah.
And they did a TED Talk. We should give you the information too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be super helpful because then that could be additional sources that we can give to the new teachers.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting that you have that opportunity to do that. Is that part of, yes, what else in your demands or what else in your capacity have you been able to engage with at the school? What, have you been listened to and what are you working on?
Oh, so for yes, we decided to split the roles so that I would be working on the list of demands and you can explain your role.
So I'm like more of community outreach, like talking to like different like organizations or just talking to students in general about what they want to see from Yes, and like also helping to plan events.
And then our other executive, she's going to do more student recruitment because we noticed that we have
We're struggling on that end.
Seniors predominantly and one freshman. So we want to get different perspectives in the room. We want to get different people and younger generations as well.
Yeah, so it's sustainable.
Yeah.
It keeps going as you three graduate. Go off to college. Yeah.
So then right now we're trying to get this PD done. And then afterwards, we're thinking about different ideas to do within our organization, like creating a race incident report, potentially.
What would that look like?
I think
like
we would
bully report that's like
emulate it.
Yeah, we already have these reports like in our like school, but no one really knows about them. So we want to make it like known and also like make it like
who do they go to?
Obvious. I
Is
have
there
no
a form
idea.
that people fill out when they see an incident, or like what?
So what it is that there are like bully incident forms, and so like if there's some kind of bullying incident, a student could potentially be told to fill out an incident report, and then it would be sent to administrators.
So you're saying to use
assistant principal.
that procedure for bullying in terms of microaggressions or a racist incident that impacts a student that isn't necessarily bullying as they sort of categorize what bullying is in terms of the law. But are there policies in place at the high schools or anything that you have been able to impact or have a discussion about, that policies that you see are not rooted in equity and justice that you could have an impact with?
So,
Well, I was just going to say, like, something that I thought was really important was when we were hiring the diversity director, something that we really talked about was having like a program or some restorative justice action that could be taken when students do commit like hateful crimes, or even say a microaggression or something they don't completely understand that has impacted someone in the wrong way. And instead of just having that student talk to a teacher about why that's wrong and like maybe get suspended or something, like a punishable action, maybe have it be a teachable moment, because a lot of times just shutting out people from the conversation and saying you did something wrong, now go home for 2 days, it's not gonna do anything. You know, people say it shows other students not to do it, but you could do that, like so many things, that like vaping, like you can send someone to home for 2 days because they did that, but it's not going to stop other students from doing it. And so why would we think that someone using a hateful language would deter others? You know, it hasn't before. And I just don't think like punishment like that would be effective. And so coming up with like a restorative justice plan where students, if they're willing to, could have a session with teachers or students who are like students from our club, be coming to meetings and like understanding why what they said was wrong. And there are like programs that do that. There was a ideas program that one Wellesley went to the first few years, and we have new members go to that program where it's a day of affinity groups, and you meet with your own affinity group and talk about issues that affect you, and then come together and discuss like personal experiences you've had and how you can take that and impact and make it more accepting in your school. And so those kind of programs are available. It's just that people don't know it's there. And oftentimes people who commit these hateful actions aren't the most open-minded people to change.
Oh, they're not able to know who they are.
Right.
Yeah. So we have basically weekly meetings with Dr. Chisholm, the executives of Yes, and we've brought that, because that's one of Yes's demands, and we've brought that issue of potentially a restorative justice technique being somehow influencing in the school environment. And I think that there's two sides to this. So my first thought is that, well, people aren't getting suspended anyway. Not really. And there's not really much of a punishment. It's just you get talked to, even if and so that's not even happening, unless it's
So there really isn't consequences.
Unless it's extremely,
extremely the person who said, the person who would send that email and they found that person would be suspended.
Right.
But if it's another scenario, which happens all the time, no one would get. They wouldn't get consequences.
If anything, the
Faculty
teacher
have consequences?
That's a very good question.
We need to figure that out soon.
Faculty because they said something?
Yeah.
Or
Or just staying,
or that they've
staying
done
silent. You
I
know,
feel like
being
faculty,
a silent observer.
there's a large majority of people who are on the faculty and staff who are just not there yet.
At
Who
all.
just don't, I'm sorry, who are
I'm
not
I'm
getting it.
confused.
And they put on this front in front of everyone.
And
to their
I am
students,
fed
and then they
up.
do other stuff, and I'm just I don't want you to teach me. I
don't want to be. I had to quit a program today because of that same exact thing. Because some teachers, one in particular.
Can you just give the example?
There's multiple.
Just give
It would be
majority of them.
so one teacher in particular, and I was in his program, and Ciera's in it too.
Yeah.
And she's experienced very similar things with him. It's that oh, you're Black. What are we doing for Black History Month?
Oh,
You're
stop.
Black. Do Black people use Facebook?
What are you talking about?
And it's wait, what? What did you just say? And then it kind of, the situation got progressed even further, where this teacher decided to just, it bounced. And I was done. I could not. I genuinely could not deal with him anymore.
Okay, so that's a male even putting in himself in your
Environment.
space.
In my
I just,
space, my environment. I
Like,
was
on
a
the
teacher.
basic-
And touch you without your permission?
Exactly.
Oh well,
On a basic
isn't
level,
there
you
some
shouldn't be
laws
touching
against
anyone.
that?
What?
You can.
I am a person. I'm a very nice person.
He needs to be taught a
And-
lesson. So it's not a matter of nice. It's a matter of teaching him so that doesn't happen to another student where he might even
Yes.
go further.
That's true. That's very true.
So that's
had
what
to
I
quit his
mean by
program.
some people are just not there yet.
Yeah.
So
But at the detriment to you. And
Oh,
your
my
experience.
emotional well-being.
Absolutely.
Because of this, another teacher decided to make a joke out of it, and out of him just pulling my hair, and said that she would do it as well. And even though I explained to her that this is not okay, because first of all, no one should be touching my hair, period, and because that's
no one should be
weird.
touching a
That's
student.
re-traumatizing
Like,
having
right.
another teacher join in and
Yeah, and
this is not a joke.
I was just fed up. I had to leave school on Friday. I had to leave early because I just could not deal with it anymore, because I could not believe what was being said to me. And this is what we have.
and done to you.
Yeah, and done. And
I'm just surprised you kept your composure, because me, I don't think I'd be allowed in the school anymore. And if someone
But
came
you
up
have
to me,
to.
and I know, but if someone I can't hold myself back like that.
And that's
you
not
have
the
a
issue.
lot
People
of.
expect you to be chill throughout
I
this, but
couldn't.
if
Yeah.
you raise your voice and scream, you're like, oh, you're the
angry Black woman.
Yeah, and
which he has put on me as well.
Yeah. And they expect you to be calm and diplomatic.
be
for
calm
all
if
You
you're
can be
touching
very
me.
calm
Put
by
you
saying,
through.
you know what? You have violated my space.
Yeah.
You are making me feel uncomfortable. You have traumatized me.
Right.
And I will tell the administration and my mother and the police. Keep your hands off me.
Do not touch me.
And the
anymore.
police.
Officer
They're there in
Rosenberg's
your
down
school.
the street.
That's true.
For who?
I don't know.
Not me.
That's for sure.
And people,
I'm
Actually,
sorry.
people
I'm
think
sorry.
The
they're
school
not
officer,
friends.
he tries. He does try.
Yeah, he really does. But
Yeah.
I just don't see myself going up to him
Yeah.
about.
I don't
like,
either.
you know,
Yeah.
We're just gonna bring that home. Let's see
Yeah.
how far that goes, because it's not.
And
My
people
mother
make
ain't
jokes
not
about
allowed
it all
that
the
to happen.
time. Like people make jokes about the walkout being like, "Oh, don't like something? Walk out for it." I'm like,
Mhm.
this is not just us not liking the school cafeteria food and walking out, because like this is
That's
just not
bad,
this.
too.
Yeah, but this is not the same. I mean, people try to correlate it.
And trying to minimize
They're
it.
trying to trivialize
And
it.
injustices aren't equally balanced. Like, just because your teacher give you a hard test, you can't walk out for that. And the struggle you face in that one class is not equal to the struggle we
It
face
is
4
not.
years at high school.
Not at all.
And you
Absolutely.
can't equate these injustices. And that's what people are doing. They're like,
Trying
they're trying to.
Yeah.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, there's also like other classes that all three of us are in, and it's just like those people in that class aren't getting it either. Like,
Nope.
The
like we
students
had
or the
like
teachers?
our Spirit Week. Like, one thing that all of us wanted to not have is America Monday, and for me personally, I don't have a problem with the day, but I know there's other people in our school who, first of all, weren't born in this country, who do not agree with a lot of stuff that are going in this country, and who do not like representing the flag. So,
First generation.
yeah, first generation. So if you're going to sit here and tell me that everyone in this school should be everyone in the school is a citizen, everyone in the school should respect the flag, everyone in the school is okay with it, so why is it that you have a problem?
Even if
It's
you were
like,
born in this
yeah,
country and you're a
yeah.
citizen, people have
Exactly.
problems with it.
Exactly.
And they changed it to Americana Monday, which
And
signified
then-
culture.
And then people were
apparently.
trying to wear like Native
That's
American
worse.
like headdresses.
What?
Or wear, I was like, yo, I need to get out this class.
Honestly,
I mean, where are we taking Americana too? We're taking it back to like ages ago, where like we didn't have, as Black people, we did not have rights
exactly
at all. Period. And so then, what is that
It's like-
implicit message even sending out? Like, I mean, and so mainly Ciera and Ciera.
Did you talk to someone and have that?
There were teachers in
have a
there was
conversation?
teachers, and the compromise was to have Americana Monday.
Instead of America.
That's a compromise?
That
It
was
was a
the
compromise.
compromise.
Who got to
Now,
decide that
The
compromise?
teachers.
So
So I
is
just
that a
don't-
compromise?
No, I don't think it's a compromise because they still got what they wanted. And we tried to bring up the idea of having like nationality like Monday.
Ethnic.
Yeah, ethnic day.
Celebrate your
Meme
ethnicity.
Monday,
Yeah,
or
meme,
like something
something
like not even
completely
associated.
different. Like, why is it that you are so hell-bent on putting red, white, and blue on you? Like, what are you losing if you don't wear those colors? Like,
And also,
what?
it's not just
We
the
have July
colors.
4th.
It's, yeah.
We have July 4th.
Independence
like-
Day. Like, I don't know what they were getting out of that, you know?
Well, again, it's
That's a lot.
it is a lot.
Yeah, we just came
I
out
got a
live.
headache. That's a lot. I got a headache.
It is
Yep.
a lot.
And it's not like we hate the flag or something. Like, I was perfectly
I don't.
fine with
No.
wearing the
and you
color
don't
have no
even
problem
flag
with
on
that.
the
to go
shirt.
there.
But it's
That's-
that people think, like, the message behind it and what people think is American. And, you know, people...
Who is American?
Yeah, who is American?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you really want an Americana Monday or America Day, do you consider all of us American, or is it just a group of you who want that day?
And
you
what
celebrate
would someone
America.
say if you did come in draped in the flag?
Yeah.
All your stuff.
Right.
Your
Like, I was
hat,
asked that.
Big. Here you come.
Yeah.
I wore America shirt to school, and they're like, "Where'd you get that from?" I'm like, "Amazon." They were like, "Oh, are you not going to wear like an India flag?" I'm like, "No, it's
So see,
American
even if you
flag."
join in,
Yeah,
I just wore like...
and you're criticized. For
I did not wear any.
You're
I wore
criticized
my,
for wearing it.
it was like a blue camouflage shirt. And it wasn't even a shirt. I like the shirt, like it's a little like sweater.
right?
I don't
So-
even think I even
I
tried
didn't
to
even-
participate.
Also, I didn't
I
participate
wore
at
my
all,
regular.
but yeah.
My mom is a veteran. I get it.
Right.
Yeah, I understand
I
it.
totally get it. Like having pride in your country, but there's a certain point where it's like, what are we standing for?
You have pride in
Like-
like all the things that America's done in the past. You gotta
Yeah.
accept the present and the future and the past
And at the
along
end
with
of
that.
the day, that is what you're being educated to do. Right?
Yeah.
Is
Critical
to
thinkers.
to think
Use your-
critically, to be yourself, your authentic self, and to challenge.
Yeah.
And even if you look at the history of the flag, I mean, the fact that they wanted their independence, but yet they were enslaving indigenous
Yeah,
people
right.
and African people. So we are talking about the flag and the
Yeah.
symbol,
Yeah.
what it symbolizes,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
But I want to get more into what the demands are and what the email was, because I still haven't heard what the email was about.
So
We don't even
And
know
what the walkout was
Tell
about.
us.
And what the walkout was
Okay.
It
about.
was a combination.
So it was a
Yeah.
combination of things. So what Ciera was talking about was the room situation and the placement situation. That was only a piece to us having a walkout. The second piece was that a teacher of color, a Black teacher, who it was her first year in our school system, she received a racist email from one of her students. It was pretty obvious that it was one of her students from our understanding of things, because we didn't get to see the email. We
just know it happened.
Yeah, we just know it happened, and we know that it had racist implications in it. And so then, and it was obvious that it was one of her students, because they brought up a specific assignment
in a
that
class.
she had. And so then that
And
outrage,
they couldn't figure out who it is.
they couldn't figure out who it is, because the person, like, it was some weird, like, setup where the IP address could bounce, or I don't know, some
Even
like
so,
technical.
somebody can say something. If they wanted to do some deep intel, they could find
They
out.
would
Because people
figure
will
it out.
tell on somebody else.
Yeah. And so then, and no one found out who it was, essentially. And so the person never got punished. And this teacher,
Is unfortunately not even at the school
she's not
anymore.
at school anymore.
She left because
She
of
left.
this.
Yeah.
Because of it.
Well,
Well,
So understandable. It's so understandable. And people came up and talked to us about it later, and I'm like, why did she leave? I'm like, this is why she left.
obviously.
Who
The fact
wants
that
to
the
stay
school
here?
didn't
Like,
do anything after that happened is why she left. Having support and being like, we'd be a shoulder for you to cry on is not enough. Especially when this happened in your school under your jurisdiction. Like, you allowed this to happen. You may not have written the email, but the fact that this happened is under your control, and not being able to amend the situation even after it's done, and relying on students to walk out and protect a teacher. I mean, this is not how it's supposed to work.
So yeah. So then getting to the walkout, do you want to explain, or should I?
Also, before, like, just over the years, like, there's been the N-word, swastikas. Our freshman year, there's a major one where, I don't know the full details, but basically, like, there was a Facebook group chat, and, like, a whole bunch of, like, racist stuff being said to this one student. And, like, it was,
And I've seen other teachers get disrespected as well.
Mm-hmm.
One student, like, right after Trump got elected, he decided to secretly record a teacher and, like, imagine, like, what she was going to say to the situation of, like, Trump being elected. And that was his only teacher of color. And from my understanding of things, he didn't even get punished. He got talked to. Even though there was a hardcore evidence. Like, there was a video. And yeah, so essentially, we had the walkout because a lot of students of color at the time were just fed up with the scenario. We were just like the daily microaggressions, these the MECO room being taken away, this teacher getting a racist email, an anonymous racist email at that. It was just, for me at least, it was too much. Yeah. And so
it
then
wasn't just too much. It was just like for me, like, growing up, and I was like, this is, like, beyond me at this point. Like,
Yeah.
like, I don't understand what is not clicking in anyone's head. Like, what is going, like, I don't know. It was more of, like, I'm done. Like, pretty soon we might have to go find a new school. Like, in all seriousness.
And it's also been like the first day I came to school, the first time I moved to Wellesley, we had an assembly because of the Facebook incident that happened this summer. So that set the tone for the next 4 years of my high school experience.
First day.
The first
day.
And it's the first day I went to school in Wellesley. And, you know, it set the tone for what was about to come, and surely didn't disappoint in that sense because we had so many incidents.
Bless you.
And by the time it came to the walkout, it wasn't about the MEC room, it wasn't about the teacher. It was just about the collective community that just seemed to not care. They seemed to talk about it when something would happen, but that's the end of the discussion.
Reactive, somewhat, but very much not proactive.
And we were trying with our list of demands to be proactive. So then we had, we wanted to be included in the hiring a diversity director. I would say that we technically got our goal accomplished.
There's a lot of hollowing.
But then there was,
Yeah.
I personally felt like, sorry guys, whoever was on that board with me, but I have to say this. I personally felt that in some scenarios, at the end of the day, majority of the time, my opinion did not contribute as much as, like, say, and which is fair, kind of, with Dr. Lucier's, and he still picked the person he wanted to pick, and I felt like there was a clear, obvious choice with the first round, and then the second round, I'm not here over the summer, so I didn't get to participate in that, and we had to find people that would want to do it, and Sadhna was one of those
I did it
students.
with I did it with another student in Student Congress, and we went there thinking we'd have a seat at the table, and yeah, we did. We were able to sit in on interviews and interview them and ask them questions, but when it came down to it, it was our opinions. Like, we filled out a sheet of what we thought and gave it to them, and they read it and then maybe made a decision. And I thought, like, we'd vote on it because I thought that was how it was going to work.
So
I
the
thought
process wasn't
having
clear.
me there was because you wanted student representation, not my opinion, because my opinion has been clear for years. If you want to know what I felt, you know by this point. So
And that's
what I
interesting.
wanted was me to have a choice in deciding who would be the diversity director, and our choice clearly wasn't like, we didn't feel like we got what we thought we would initially, and it was very like a unilateral decision. That's what I felt.
And my experience was different because I didn't get to participate in the second time around, but she did, and I was in one with another student, and we did at first get to vote like who went into the second round of things, and then I had a clear, obvious choice that I felt like was personally the right decision, and I know the other student did as well, but that person just didn't end up getting chosen. And then the person who did get chosen decided not to come, so then they had a second round, and it's like, and then the second round didn't even involve the person that I would have liked to see. I would have liked to see her in that role, and that didn't get. That they didn't even allow her to be considered for the second
But there's
round.
it doesn't sound like a lot of transparency to sort of understand sort of what happened. And so you're bringing people into a space, and I think we have a lot of these conversations that somehow diversity and inclusion means, well, you're included if you're diverse and you're just sitting at the table. But again, that's not inclusion. That is not equity and being able to feel.
And I feel like at the ground level, that was being like, we were able to have more of a voice. Like, I definitely went up to multiple members, and we went in the round table, and I was like, I don't think this person is right because of this, or I think this person is right because of this. But when it came down to the decision making, it was and a lot of the people that were on the committee also didn't have a decision into the case as well. It was just like that one person who made a choice, and I'm very curious on how that choice even got, and I never got an explanation.
It doesn't sound like 21st century learning or collaboration. For sure, right?
Like, the people I was on the committee with were like the same as me. Like, they felt pretty similar to what I felt, and they were like some of the best people I could have asked to have the interview process with, and having that chance to talk with them was absolutely great. But at the time, when we wrote a form about like each person and why we think they should or should not get the position, it was everyone in the round table and also parents who wrote. And so we were just lumped in with a community discussion of we interviewed them every day.
And that's a lot of time.
And
spent a lot of time.
It was a lot of time, and we were lumped in with parents' opinions as well. And so it was just a stack of papers, a stack of reviews that someone read and made a decision on. And I didn't spend hours of my summer to just be an opinion on a piece of paper,
That's where the disrespect comes in too, right?
Yeah, because I thought I got
time.
And we weren't told this beforehand. I wasn't told that, we just want your opinion on things. I was told we're getting a seat at the table, and that's not what happened.
So what did you learn from this experience? So moving forward, what will you demand? What would you ask for in order for some clarity to happen?
I think that we have to be very specific in
Very
not only trying to get a seat at the table, but what that seat would look like. And I also want to acknowledge, we're not saying that Dr. Curry is a bad choice. I personally really like Dr. Curry, the new diversity director, and it's not her fault at all.
It's
just
the process.
It's just the process, and it was just frustrating.
Not the people.
Yeah, definitely.
Not that Dr. Curry's fabulous, and
we're grateful for her to be at Wellesley and
to even give us a shot.
It was pulling teeth just to have the position in general. So,
no, you're absolutely right. I mean, for Wellesley to have a position, absolutely, we definitely had, to share our voices about the importance of this position. Clearly, from this conversation right here with the three of you.
Right.
And you are just three
Amazing.
of the 1,500 students at the high school who I am sure all have stories. So as seniors, as you're heading out, and you can certainly share a little bit if you want to what you might be doing next September, but what would you like to see, or what, these conversations about race and racism are so important. Clearly, there's good and bad with all of this. It's messy. It's definitely messy, complicated stuff.
Yes.
What would you like to see, or what could be done better, or what advice could you give the community in terms of really understanding, what they're hearing today, and what do they do with that?
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I really hope, my biggest hope when we graduate is that this continues.
Yes.
Because we wouldn't have got the diversity director and being able to be able to help departments hire more teachers of color if it wasn't for our Walkout and the club we created. So what I really hope is that more students step up and take this issue head on like we did and continue the fight, because when we all graduate, there's not going to be a lot of students left who I know who are personally really invested in this issue. And this is not an issue for us, it's an issue for everyone at the school, and at some point they're going to realize it, but I'd rather it be sooner than later, because we only realized it our junior year. Or at least we did something about it our junior year. And so now that there's already a club set up for them, I really hope there's more people who step up and take over the club and start to make more change like we did.
I think that I would like the community to know that today's been a rough day. Today's been a rough day, and I expect there to be many more, and there has been in the past, and that people are going through their own journey, and that it's not only white people going through their journey of we're now realizing, and now there's some acknowledgement or whatnot. I think that I also want to recognize and give space to that people of color are also going on their own journey. It's frustrating to be in this kind of environment and not feel like I'm truly being heard, feel like I'm talking to you, but you're not receiving, and maybe you are receiving that, and you're trying to let me know that you are receiving that, but you're not truly receiving that. You know what I mean? And so then I think I just want to acknowledge that for students of color, it's okay. It's really okay, and that you're going through your own journey as well, and that's fine. For white people, essentially, I need you to acknowledge that I have feelings, and that this is my journey, and that the same way I have to acknowledge that you're on your journey and that you're trying to get out of this ignorant space and whatnot. I'm also going through my own journey with race, and that's essentially what I want to say, and that I hope it gets better. It's hard to say, I wish that the list of demands will be met. I wish we could get an equity coach for the high school. I wish we can have restorative justice techniques. I wish we could have truly been on the diversity committee.
Yeah. Adding on to that, so me, I always struggle with that question, because I am ready to pack my bags and leave. I'm so ready for it. But at the same time, I have such a hard time leaving, because I'm thinking about all the kids that I know, those elementary schoolers that I've met, and what they're going through, and knowing their stories, and I can't, in my heart, I can't leave them. I can't leave them to essentially fend for themselves, because that's what I had to do. And if I know what that's like, I don't want anyone else going through that. Yes. So for me, I just I hope people just stop acting like this is I don't know, why is it so difficult for you just to admit that there's people going through a tough time, that your actions have an effect on people. I just I wish that people just realize that there's what you do has an effect on someone, and of course you don't go out your way trying to I don't know, just be racist. No one is trying to do that, but you gotta understand that what you do is a product of your environment, and your environment isn't very welcoming of people of opposite race of you. And so you got to realize that these kids are going to be going through that. And if you can't let your own child suffer by themselves, not understanding themselves, trying to change themselves and realizing that they shouldn't change themselves because of the way that they look. They should always feel good about themselves, and you should understand that basic thing about other children. And, like, understand that when we leave, you have to step up. Like, there's, like, you have to be the voice.
And that, also, on top of that, it's that it shouldn't be my responsibility to educate you.
Right.
It shouldn't be my responsibility to make sure you're doing the right thing, because we're leaving. We're going somewhere else. And because it's college time, essentially. And honestly, I hope they don't try to find, like, that one black person that will put up with this stuff. Yeah. Because honestly,
it's traumatizing.
It's a lot to deal with. Like, we have gone through, all three of us have gone through a lot. And I really don't think that should be put on other kids at this point.
I think when we say we're looking forward to, like, continuing, we're not telling other kids of color to keep up with it. We're telling the whole school to keep up with it. You know, I'm not telling other kids of color being like, now we're leaving, you step up. Because I don't want to put the burden on them to teach the rest of the school, because I feel like that's what we've been through. Yeah. Like, I've had it in classes, in every class I think I've been in, like, every class I felt like I had to teach others around me issues of social inequality. And it's unfair, but that's what's been the burden on us for a long time, and that's why we're not asking other students of color to join Yes Club because you're a student of color, but join if you care about the issue. Like, if you're a white student who doesn't understand it but wants to get more involved, get involved. Like, this is not a club, that's not an affinity club just for people of color, it's the entire school's club.
Yeah. So it's time for the institution to step up, the teachers to step up, the white students to step up, the parents to step up.
It's time for everybody to step up in a healthy way. This is not healthy.
It
really is not.
The stress, the stress is a killer.
Yep.
And people don't realize that all these ailments that come about because of stress, and people of color are having to deal with these kind of stresses.
And we have to think about a self-care day now. We really do. Because, like, a teacher mentioned this, was like, you guys need, like, help. You need to talk care. To someone. And you need self-care. And we don't know how to do that. Because it's like, I don't know how to do that, like, at all. Because, like, I've been trying to give. And I'm not really receiving anything back. And essentially that's what happened. Like, I needed to quit. And, like, there's another class that we're thinking about quitting as well. Because it's like, and I need to receive something, and it needs to be in a healthy way. There needs to be healthy discussions. You have to understand what you're putting students of color in the high school through. And I don't think people have even thought about that yet, except for a few key teachers.
And I think something that the school has got to master at doing is just tokenism, just putting a student of color in a position where they say, oh, you're here, now it's a diverse conversation. Like, that is not what diversity means, and that's not what the school that's not what's going to make the school move fast. And, like, progress is not going to be made through just having a student of color, because just having another voice isn't going to do a lot if that voice isn't representative of the majority of, like, the issues that are facing students of color. Yeah. And I feel like
and the people that are in powerful positions and positions to make changes and to do things that they need to do in order to listen, to understand, and to make the time for these conversations. It takes time. It truly takes time. And our system is set up to not have any time, to not be able to do.
Consistency. It has to happen. Like, it can't just happen once in the year.
But we can talk about a profile of a graduate. We can talk about a strategic plan. We can talk about our core values of equity and human acceptance and all of these wonderful things that we have. And at the end of the day, we're still yielding exactly what you're saying, because every year I feel like I hear the same thing from students as they leave this school. And we're not saying that this, this is just Wellesley.
Oh, no. Everything that they were talking about, I've heard already from my own sons at their schools, the black alcoves, at a private school,
Yeah.
And no, all of these, happens every year.
This is a country issue, not Wellesley issue.
That's right.
It's just exacerbated at Wellesley because of the level of privilege people have, and because it's such a homogenous town. I feel like people are so privileged in this town to not acknowledge that they come from an upper middle class family, to not acknowledge that they're white and the whiteness comes with a certain privilege that people like me would not experience. And just acknowledging that privilege is hard enough, but that has not even been happening. Like, you have to acknowledge that privilege, then work to dismantle the system with that privilege, and people can't understand that.
With that privilege comes socialization, right?
Yeah.
And how they're socialized and how they're taught to think.
Yeah.
And again, the choice to not engage, the choice to not listen. When I think about my life and my experience of not knowing the three of you or four of you and experiencing and being able to have connections and true human connections of trust, that's what people are missing. That's what people are truly missing. When I see the three of you and hear you today and all that you have said, and I think about all of the students who may not know you, have never had the privilege to know you and to understand who you are as human beings, it's a loss. It's a complete loss for everyone, certainly for everyone. What could you be working on right now and doing in your lives and using your sphere of influence and your capacity and critical thinking to be able to be doing if diversity, equity, and inclusion was not something that we even had to talk about? What could you be doing? And there's just so much loss in all of that when we think about the dimensions and the constant inconsistencies and lack of really courage. The courage that it takes to listen to everything that you just said today and act and take a leap of faith and say, I know this is not what, my administration wants me to do, or what the State Department, or it's in my curriculum, or what I have time for. But when do we decide that we've had enough and that this has to change? And I really do hope and that it does. And I'm very, very thankful for your voices today. Ciera, I think about the children just the same as you. I know there are little girls and boys right now who are experiencing that really don't understand what's happening to them. And they are internalizing that something is wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with you. And that is, it's painful. It is very, very painful. I just I'm very, very grateful for your voices. I'm grateful to that you were able to share this today, but I'm very sorry. Very, very sorry.
I think those watching today too, or in the future, will glean some information from this and open up their hearts and do the hard work that needs to be done in order to make sure our students don't go through what they're going through. And I'm sure we haven't heard everything, and there may be things that are worse than what they told us today. And you all are both miraculous and powerful, and I just can't wait to see what you all do in the future. I mean, if you're doing this at this age, you're very powerful.
Rock stars for sure. Very excited, ladies have been. Thank you so much for being a part of our show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for watching Race in Point today. We are just so honored and humbled to have Sadhna, Yasmin, and Ciera with us today. We're very proud of them and wish them luck on their journey forward. And see you again on Race in Point. Thank you.